Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to another interesting evening of Spotlight here on JTV Channel 55. I'm Edjuenka, and we have a great program this evening. The Speaker of the House of Assembly and the President-elect of Rotary Club of Tortola, Honorable Ingrid Moses Catliffe, is going to be in the spotlight. We're going to be talking about the challenges of our young people. The Rotary of Tortola is having a youth conference, a youth forum, and we have a very interesting speaker coming into town tomorrow to address youth and the issues under the theme Peace, Conflict, and Resolution. So it's going to be an interesting discussion, and we're looking forward to inviting you to send your young people to that forum that's coming up in the next couple of days. Of course, first we have to go to Sean Rose with the stories making the news this week. Sean, what are those stories making the news this week? What's the big events in the BVI?
Greetings, viewers. Edjuenka, the ministers responsible for the environment in the 9-member Organization of the Eastern Caribbean States Sub-Region, the OECS, will gather in the Virgin Islands this week for the first meeting of the Council of Ministers, the first meeting of the Council of Ministers since the revised Treaty of Bastia was adopted in 2011. An exhibition on climate change was held on Monday, September 29 at the Central Administration Complex here in Rotown, and that pretty much marked the start of activities that will take up much of this week. And on Tuesday, September 30, that is earlier today, some 30 or so of the 40 delegates gathered at the Marias by the Sea Hotel to hold or convene a technical meeting before they take some of their proposals and ideas and suggestions to the Council of Ministers meeting scheduled for Wednesday, tomorrow. Of course, that will be held as well at the very same Marias by the Sea Hotel. But earlier this afternoon, the H. Laverty Stout Community College welcomed the opening ceremony of what is considered the inaugural opening ceremony of the Council of Ministers, and that was expected to hear addresses from Premier Dr. Orlando Smith and His Excellency Governor John Duncan. Now, Wednesday, as I said earlier, we will hear at some point, maybe during the evening, what is the outcome of the meetings between the ministers and their technical support from throughout the OECS sub-region. But today we spoke with Dr. Asha Singh, and she heads the Oceans Governance Unit at the OECS Commission, formerly the Secretariat, now called the OECS Commission. And she told JTV News why the meeting is important, why it's important for all these environment ministers to meet here in the Virgin Islands, specifically as it relates to what are the important issues for everyone in the 9-member OECS countries. Let's have a listen.
Yes, as you know, that the environment is a very broad area, and we have a number of thematic areas. Of relevance is one is ocean governance, and we are bringing before the ministers a number of issues. One dealing with boundary delimitation and ocean acidification, to name a few. We also have an area of energy, and energy we're bringing a number of issues as well, including ESERA, which is the Eastern Caribbean Regulatory Authority. We also have issue of geothermal. As you know, that one of the major challenges in the OECS is our high energy budget, and therefore we constantly have to seek effort to how do we ensure that we harness those renewable energies that we have, for example, the sun, and geothermal is one that has a potential in the OECS. We can see a number of changes, but as you know, we must take this in context, that we can endorse a number of initiatives, but if we do not have the financial resources to put into these initiatives, it becomes also very problematic. However, having said that, once we have the political endorsement, it gives us a lot of leverage to go after financing from donor partners and other agencies, but also to build partnerships. So what we're hoping that on ground, for example, We have brought to the minister an issue of marine protected areas, and what we want to do is to start developing a network for marine protected areas. We want to get to all the levels of persons who are involved in marine protected areas. That is the managers or the people who are using it. We want to change the discussion on how do we deal with marine protection and see it in a different light, not only as biodiversity protection, but also providing livelihoods to the many people in our member states, in our countries who are using, who depend on those resources that we are trying to manage sustainably.
So there you have it, Edjuenka and listeners, Dr. Asha Singh, and the Sustainable Development Unit at the OECS Commission, led by Director Bentley Brown, is responsible for convening the meeting being hosted by the BVI. What are your thoughts on some of what you've heard?
Well, it's interesting, the whole issue of climate change and preservation of the environment. What can we do? What are we supposed to do in the region to preserve our environment when you have the international community creating all the pollutants that is usually headed our way? How do we mitigate those particular set of circumstances with this OECS initiative?
And you asked a very tough question, because in response, not trying to answer your question, but in response, China, India, US, Russia, and Japan, these are known as the big and of course developed powerhouses out there. Russia, and the US, China in particular, we know these are some of the countries that are responsible for much of the manufacturing in the world today. China as well, being one of those emerging economies that is dominating the world economic sphere. And what can we do is a very, very tricky question to answer.
Well, Dr. Singh has talked about political leverage, and I'm trying to determine political leverage directed at who. Whether she's talking about that leverage directed at the international community or the more industrialized countries, and how is that, through what mechanisms, what agencies and avenues is that political leverage going to be channeled?
And that's one of the observations I made while I researched prior to the start of this discussion. I noticed that the OECS Commission, through Dr. Singh and that particular department, they have been seeking to coordinate efforts, funding efforts really, or assistance from international donor agencies, both government and non-government. And one gets the sense that there is some level of interest from the international community to preserve the environment, because there is some public relations issues at stake as well, apart from a genuine concern for the environment. But again, which country would decide to halt or to stall their urge to progress economically? Would China say, okay, we are satisfied with where we are at, we don't necessarily want to be the number one economy in the world, and so we would reduce our CO2 emissions? Would Russia decide to do that? You see, it's a very, very difficult road to walk, I can imagine, for the OECS.
What is our minister saying? What are our plans for preserving our environment? Because our environment is significant in that our tourism product depends to a large degree on our environment.
And that's a good point there.
Yeah. What is our minister saying? What are the BVI's plans?
The Minister for Natural Resources here, Honorable Dr. Kedrick Pickering, you may have heard him say on several occasions that there is no tourism without the environment. In fact, what I noticed today as well, as I glanced through some details, there is a widely accepted view that 80% of the Caribbean's tourism product depends or is heavily linked to the environment. And 80% of our customer base, of the people who are coming to these islands, come because of the environment. So environmental sustainability is a must for us. And I I would definitely see why Dr. Kedrick Pickering is insisting that we must preserve the environment. However, given the fact that the Caribbean's CO2 emissions are minimal compared to these countries, China, Russia, the US, and so forth, it means that we have a bigger fight on our hands when we go into the United Nations to argue for improved environmental practices.
We have a challenge already with our coral reefs, where our fish are spawned and protected and go out into the ocean. But also our visitors get an opportunity to explore those reefs and look at the beauty of the underwater sea life or the marine life that we have here in the territory. How are we mitigating the challenges that how are we going to mitigate the challenges that's presented to those reef, our coral reefs? I've heard data that suggests up to 90% of the reefs are dying.
From coral bleaching?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, of course, we have the situation where, and I could never remember the name of this chemical, where this paint is being used on boat bottoms.
Yes.
That is changing female conchs into male conchs and having a significant impact on our sea life in that way. I mean, I don't hear anything from our natural resources ministry that is channeled towards banning those kinds of chemical use in the territory. Chemicals that have been banned in other parts of the world. You can't use that chemical in the United States, as a matter of fact. So, I'd like to get some specific information about what are we doing to preserve our environment here in the Virgin Islands.
And I'd like to follow up on what are we doing, because even as citizens in the Caribbean, I still believe, and the record does show, that we are guilty of littering way above what even our own environment can handle. You would see the wanton disposal of waste, in particular plastics and so forth. We have issues related to sewage, improper management of sewage and other liquid waste. The disposal of oils and so forth. Those things are being done almost randomly throughout the Caribbean, and in many cases it is difficult to legislate or even police people. People should really take greater responsibility for the environment. I was checking as well while you spoke that although there are some legislation within the Caribbean to control littering and so forth, not much improvement is realized when we look at the amount of degradation we see in the environment itself. For example, going back to the issue of the corals, a lot of the destruction is really blamed on fishing itself, overfishing in some areas. But to be fair too, there is also the threat from the lionfish, which is not indigenous to the Caribbean, which actually came out, we are told, from a Florida aquarium and is now wreaking havoc on our fish, our marine life throughout the Caribbean.
And substantiating my point that the international community is the community that's creating a lot of the pollution and environmental degradation on the earth, but we are unable to do anything to stop them because, of course, their economic development, as you pointed out, is paramount for their interest. The other thing is energy. I heard Dr. Singh talk about energy diversity and alternative sources of energy. We seem to always be the Caribbean region and the developing country, particularly small island developing states, always seem to be behind the 8 ball, if to use that term. They always seem to be behind Europe and North America when it comes to, and Asia, when it comes to protecting our interests. It's like, I mean, for many, many years now, we know that we in the Caribbean have solar energy in abundance. and instead of making that transition to solar energy and other sources of renewable energy, we waited and waited and waited until seemingly they say it's okay for us to now do that. You know, it's, well, to me personally, it's annoying that we always waiting on the international, quote unquote, international community to do the things for our region that we know need to be done, as if we have to get permission in order to do these things. And
You know-
so I'm interested to see what is going to come out of this OECS meeting and how we are going to seize initiatives for in our own best interest, and how we are going to be able to get those initiatives through our political directorate to make sure that we indeed are sustainable and our environment is preserved for our economic best interest in growth and development.
And I agree. In fact, if we are to continue along that vein, in terms of the OECS Commission actually reaching, their target goals, look at what has to happen after these discussions and meeting. The respective ministers would now have to come or go back to their various ministries and, of course, cabinets, governments, countries, and convince them that they need to implement the various proposals and adopt those protocols. And when those decisions are made, there's a financial implication. Now, this is where I'm going with this. If there isn't a unified approach in terms of going out to access funding, then even at the individual level, these countries would find it very difficult to implement the various proposals that they would have adopted at this Council of Ministers meeting here in the BVI. And then it would be an issue of how soon, when. Would it take a year or 2 years or 3 or more for them to actually see for there to be some results? And in terms of the access to funding, we've heard Dr. Pickering again speaking to that issue, because they had, I believe, some research work done on the environmental preservation here in the Virgin Islands. And some of the issues as it relates to climate change, you saw a threatening pretty much of some of the existing tourist sites and, of course, businesses as well throughout the Virgin Islands, with Anegada and other low-lying areas being the most at risk. And you have to ask yourself what is going to happen down the road if we don't stem the tide in terms of the rising sea levels, which, of course, are dependent on decreasing CO2 emissions and improving environmental management and sustainability.
And the other point you make in terms of funding this changeover and this mitigation of environmental challenges is we always seem to have to be going with hat in hand.
Yes.
You know,
we got to go out the region because we don't have the resources. Even though we may have resources to generate much more money,
yeah.
We are not pooling our resources in the Caribbean either. And that's a point I should make as well.
Yeah.
Even though we have the OECS sub-region, yes, established since 1981, we're doing well as a sub-region. But even within those 9 member states, there is still some tug of war in some cases. And you're not seeing the harmonization that there needs to be for us to realize some of these goals, you know.
Well,
but I want to draw your attention to something, Edgerenka, because I really didn't pay much attention either, that Pakistan, Qatar, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Iran are the top 5 countries with the worst air pollution. And when I look at the various reasons, I noticed that in many cases, in the case of Pakistan, for example, where thousands of people die because of lung infection or cancer-related ailments, it's usually because of smoke, mold, and dust. And in Qatar, heavy construction in the area, again, raises the issue of dust. But they're actually doing something quite creative. They are building a forest, so to speak, using creative ways to recreate a forest so that they could stem the tide of the dust that is circulating the area. Afghanistan, because of the wars in those areas, a lot of open areas that once had vegetation that no longer have anything. except dust and stone and boulders. And the list goes on, basically.
Well, that is certainly creative to build to plant trees to use up the carbon dioxide
Yes.
in the air.
So it's a very ingenious reforestation program.
Yeah, and there've been reports of where in Guyana, for example, in South America, in other countries in South America, the preservation of the forests, the Amazon in particular, is being paid for by members of the international community,
Yes.
so that we could have some oxygen to breathe in the future. And I think
Exactly.
that's an interesting idea. But certainly, Sean, we know that unity is the key to our success, and it's great to see the OECS coming together and forming one head on preserving our environment and to make sure that we maintain sustainable. So that is a positive act as far as I'm concerned. How we get it to work and how we get to drive through those issues that are in our best interest, that it still remains to be seen. Yes. Thank you very much for that report.
You're welcome.
We're going to take a break, and we come back with Honorable Ingrid Moses Scatliff, President-elect of the Rotary Club of Tortola, and we're going to be talking about our young people. Keep it locked right here at the Spotlight. We'll be right back.
Spotlight is brought to you by Tortola Concrete Limited and H. Lavity Stout Community College.
Serving the community for over 25 years, Tortola Concrete Limited is the leading producer of concrete products in the BVI. With grades of 3,000 to 5,000 PSI, Tortola Concrete ready-mix quality unmatched in the industry, and we can mix to your specifications. Our aggregates are clean through our unique washing process for our smooth, clean mix. And our special chilling process makes our concrete crack resistant. Tortola Concrete Limited is the concrete company for all your quality concrete products. Gravel, road base, face stone, boulders, armor rock, coarse sand, terrace, and the cleanest, strongest, crack resistant, ready mix concrete. Tortola Concrete batch plant serve you Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. until the last load. Our knowledgeable, effective staff gives you free estimate and delivers on time to any location. Contact Tortola Concrete at 494-3259, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Conveniently located in Parkwood Pond near the BVI electricity plant. At Tortola Concrete Limited, the strength is in the mix.
He's been working so hard on this. I am so extremely proud of him.
Walter Emerson, writer and philosopher, once said, and I quote, "To finish the moment, to find the journey's end in every step of the road, to live the greatest number of good hours is wisdom."
Being a single parent, my husband died. Juggling work, children, school was tough, but I did it.
I feel like I have a fresh start in life. HLSCC has definitely exceeded my expectations.
I am the younger of two in my family, but I am the first to go off to a university. HLSCC has given me the right jump start to paving my success.
You don't come to college just to come to college. You come to college to graduate.
Just coming out of high school at a very young age, HLSCC was the ideal stepping stone to prepare me for the greater world. It's right at home with great facilities and great lecturers. My college experience was phenomenal.
Do you live? Do your part to stop illegal dumping in our Virgin Islands. Report offenders to the Department of Waste Management at 468-4934.
It's not even about being bigger. David and Goliath taught us that it's about being better than you were yesterday. At CCT, we're committed to building on better music downloads, better videos, better online gaming, better internet so your kids can get their homework done at better hours, better customer support when you need it the most. A better everything makes a better BVI so that you could work better and live better. You see, at CCT, we're not only a local company, we're a better company with the real 4G network. Visit your CCT flagship store today and experience CCT Life Unlimited.
Have you heard? Clarence Summers Limited Home Centers is making things more affordable in the British Virgin Islands. We are making things better for you during these hard times by reducing prices throughout our stores, using our new pricing strategy. But wait, there's more. Created exclusively for our loyal customers, now there's a rewards program implemented just for you. Sign up to become a loyalty member and be the first to get member perks such as exclusive email offers, members-only discounts, private sales event, and much, much more. Our loyalty program gives you savings and benefits that will be equal to or better than our crazy sales of past years. With our loyalty program, you'll get monthly specials on items exclusively only for our loyalty customers at prices that won't be matched. Enroll in our loyalty program today. It's free. It's easy. Get ready, BVI, for lower prices at Clarence Summers Limited Home Centers. Clarence Summers Limited, your number one stop for the best products at the lowest prices, period. Locally owned and operated since 1967.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm here with, well, I don't know which hat to put on her, but she is the vice president, not the president-elect, the vice president of Rotary Club of Tortola. And of course, many of us know that she is the Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly. Welcome, Sister Moses Catliff. Good to see you.
Same to you. Good evening, Cromwell.
Good, you're looking bright and cheery.
Thank you.
Yeah. Rotary Club of Tortola begun a conference or forum, a youth forum, a couple of years ago. This is which annual? This is second, third, fourth?
Let me just apologize on behalf of President Henry, first of all, who's unable to appear with me tonight to promote the Peace Forum. It's a peace and conflict resolution forum. It's also one of the main focus areas of Rotary International. And what we have done every year is we have a Peace and Conflict Resolution Forum, but it's usually conducted by adults, persons in the community who we think, persons like the Commissioner of Police, the various avenues that can contribute to resolving peace. And what we decided to do this year is to take a different spin and to have the young persons involved, meaning that the panelists as well as the audience would be comprised of middle-aged students, which are grades 7 to 9, forms 1 to 3 formally, and have them share with us their views, their opinions, and what the issues are, as well as coming up with possible solutions. So this year is a total different spin from what we normally have, because it's involving young people on a whole.
And you're talking about primary school and secondary school children?
This is secondary school. So what we're doing is we're partnering with all of the secondary schools in the territory. The Elmore Stout High School, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School, the St. George's Secondary School, as well as Cedar International. These are on Tortola. But we're also partnering with the Brigada Flax Educational Center, as well as the Claudia Creaky Educational Center in Anegada.
And you're hoping to get suggestions from our young people that are that age? I mean, what do they know about conflict resolution and peace?
Well, interestingly enough, we had to select topics that are pertinent to the issues that they are facing on a daily basis. Topics like respect, self-esteem, peer pressure, bullying, and generally how to resolve conflict. And we thought with those topics, those are topics that the students can relate to and share with us their experiences, their opinions, their views, and offer possible solutions as to how we can combat those issues that are plaguing us in the community.
My reliable sources told me this afternoon that there were the gang wars in the high school. I don't know if you heard about it, but there was a huge fight, I think, today, where you had several gangs from East End, gangs from West End, gangs from Longbush. I think one young person is in a hospital right now from being beaten by a group of young men in the high school. I was frightened by it, actually, that type of behavior is going on. It seemed like a great challenge that the club has in taking on this role.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, and that is one of the reasons why the timing was critical for us. We thought we would have something of this nature at the beginning of the school year to set the tone for the rest of the school year and get the students actively involved. And within the last 2 weeks, us actually preparing for this forum, we have heard of so many different instances of scenarios happening in the schools, outside of the schools. And I heard a bit about what you said now. Not sure about the gangs, but I did hear about the fight and the, for lack of a better word, segregation, because apparently there are different groups from different villages that are, playing out different behavior. And I think it stems to a deeper issue, which is what we're trying to get at. And if we can get the young persons to tell us exactly why they think it occurs and help us understand how we think we can help them solve the issues, because we know that there are deep-seated issues in there, but we have to find out what they are for so that we can really help them. And hearing it from them, I think, would help us a long way in trying to actively help them to resolve the issues.
And I know that it's a worthwhile goal, and the motivation is evident, but I'm not so sure that our young people are able to identify. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go ahead with your plans, but I'm wondering whether our young people are capable of identifying those deep-seated issues that you're talking about. Or should we have to identify those issues for those young people?
Let me answer the question this way. This afternoon I was in an office and I went out to make a telephone call, and there was a student sitting there. There was a young man, he's about 13. He attends the Seventh-day Adventist school. Mm-hmm. And I just sat next to him and asked him his name, and then I asked him if he knew what peer pressure was. He told me yes. I asked him if he suffers with it. He said no. I asked him about bullying, and he told me yes, he knows what it is. He has also experienced it. So I said, what did you do? He explained to me what, and I said, is it still happening? And he said no. And I said, why? He said, because he's a Farm 2 student. He was promoted to Farm 2. So he left the bullies behind because they were not successful in being promoted to Farm 2. Mm-hmm. So he is no longer being bullied because he's now a Farm 2 student. Now I'm using him as an example because clearly, and that is one of the reasons why we spent a lot of time as Rotarians trying to come up with ideas and topics that they can relate to, and I just used them because I just threw them out to him. I didn't know who he was, but I could make my connections and figure it out, and he answered the questions. And if we can get them to tell us, okay, you all know what it is. Why is it happening? Why do you think it's happening? Because I can bet perhaps 9 out of 10 or even 10 students know exactly what those 5 topics are. They have either experienced it, bullying or peer pressure, or they know someone who has experienced it. And believe it or not, the social media network, that's the craze now. All of the youngsters are fully engrossed in social media. But that's also one of the biggest avenues for cyberbullying. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things I heard yesterday is that the kids knew, they thought that something was going to happen in school yesterday. This is the Elmore Stout High School. And they were planning for it. But on Facebook, somebody got wind of it and the message went around to all of the students saying that it wasn't going to happen again. And that just shows you the power of the internet and the power of Facebook. So I think the kids, we can't underestimate them, and this is why we thought it was absolutely necessary for us to have their views. Let you tell us. We selected topics that we think that you can relate to, and I honestly think that they can, because those are things that we were taught from little kids, 2 and 3 year olds. What is respect? And all of them are interrelated. Self-respect, self-esteem, peer pressure, bullying, conflict resolution, they all fit in very nicely because they all contingent upon one another. And I honestly think, Cromwell, that the students, we don't want a debate style forum. We want you to have a frank discussion. Just say exactly what it is. You don't necessarily have to call names as if you're finger pointing anybody, but feel free to express yourself so that we can help you resolve the issues, because we know that they're there. We're parents, we're godparents, we're aunts, we're uncles, we're grandparents, so we know that there are issues there.
Social media certainly present an opportunity as well for the club and for those persons or those adults who would want to help to mitigate that challenge.
And it is an avenue that we're using. We have the Rotary Club of Tortola website, and any of the Rotary clubs, they all have local websites, and we also have a Facebook page, so the information is there as well. What we have also incorporated, when this forum is finished, we're not just going to leave it there. What we're implementing as Rotarians is a mentorship program. We know that the Social Development Department has a Big Brother, Big Sister program, but what we are going to do in addition to that, and it's supposed to complement that, it's to pair Rotarians with students, with young persons, and mentor them, spend at least 2-3 hours a week with them, build a relationship, foster the ideas that we would like to see cultivated in them, because at the end of the day, this generation, as much as it may appear as if they are problematic and there are a lot of issues, they are the leaders of tomorrow. So we have to do what we can to help them aspire and grow up to be the talented individuals that we know they are.
So how is that program going to work, that mentorship program? That's part of your youth program of Rotary Club of Tortola.
It's part of the program, and this forum...
Who can participate, and how is that pairing going to work?
Right now, we've established quite a dialogue with all of the schools. We have Rotarians who are assigned, even in putting the forum together with the Elmo Stout School, the various secondary schools. So we're going to spin off from that, because in doing the collaboration, the schools, we told them the number of students who are going to be on the panel. It's a panel of 7 for the forum in Tortola, and it's a panel of 6 in Virgin Gorda. The panel of 7 is 5 students, 2 from Elmo Stout, gender balance, male and female, 1 each from Cedar International, St. George's Secondary, and Seventh-day Adventist School. And the schools are responsible for selecting one of the students. It's not debate style, but we're going to piggyback from that same relationship, and the teachers work with them on a day-to-day basis, so we're trying to get into the schools. Give us persons, we bring them along, and the beauty about Rotary is that there are 4 clubs that you can get into. There are 2 clubs that are specifically designed for that age group, that middle age group. We have the early actors, which is around 8 to 12, and then we also have the interactors, which is like 13 to 18. So we're going to use those avenues as well. There are persons now throughout all of the secondary schools who are in the Interact Club, and several of the schools have earlier clubs in there. So we're going to piggyback off of those relationships and try to get as many Rotarians as possible on board to do the mentoring. And it's not just something that we want to have limited to the Rotary Club of Tortola as well, because at the end of the day, it is a community project. The problem is affecting all of us, so it's not limited to one specific club. It's something that we want to partner with all of the clubs so that we can get them actively involved in trying to foster closer ties and relationship with the young persons in the community.
And also, would you want the young people to join those clubs?
Ultimately, because we think the ideals of Rotary are, it fosters leadership skill. Persons who are initially timid, quiet, when they get into, whether it's early act, from that early age, by the time they get to interact, they've already, you've seen the change around coming from that early, even within the earlier club itself, because they have to take on leadership roles. They basically run their own organization. There's a board, much like each of the adult clubs. You have a president, a vice president, a treasurer. You have directors for fundraising, public relations. So it teaches you to be responsible as well as to be accountable. And it improves your self-esteem, your public speaking skills, because these are roles that you have to do. But at the same time, it allows you to have fun and to gain experience as well.
And you also get training
Absolutely.
in those roles.
Absolutely.
I think that's the important.
And the adult clubs, Rotary Club of Tortola, Rotary Club of Rotown, Rotary Club of Sunrise Rotown, those Rotarians in those clubs are actively involved with the Aulia clubs as well as the Interact clubs.
I noticed on the playground, and I'm on the playground quite a lot, that simple things trigger arguments in the young people, especially the males. And it's, I guess, there's a lot of bullying going on, and it's who feel that they're the toughest and they're the biggest. And you notice the smaller kids, these are primary school kids. They are standing up, they are coming up in the face of the secondary school kids. And so they're starting from early to be bullies or to be quote unquote men. And I'm getting the sense that the manhood now of the young male is tied up in his ability to create conflict and to succeed at conflict. I don't know if that's something that has come to the attention of the club as a motivational factor for what you're doing, and if that's something that you've been paying attention to. But it's something that is quite dangerous in developing in that way.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because that is one of the driving factors. I mean, we have persons from throughout the entire community who are members of the club, and again, we see the problems there. We have to deal with them, and this is our way of trying to see how we can help, because believe it or not, it just takes one person. If we all sit back and complain about the problem and not actively try to do something to bring about change, then we're no better off. So it is an overwhelming exercise. And you mentioned about men. I think all men or young men are an endangered species. That is my personal opinion, because I see a lot of them getting lost. And I think we as a society have an obligation and a responsibility to ensure that that does not occur, because we tend to protect the girls. Even when it comes to play, you make sure the girls are in before the sun goes down and the boys are out. And those are double standards, and I think it's all backfiring now in our faces, and we have to try as much as we can to get the men and really partner them with positive role models in the communities. I mean, we talk here a lot about single parenting, but I was raised by a single mother. Yes, I'm a female, but at the end of the day, that's not an excuse, because you have uncles, you have cousins, you have godparents, and I think it requires now society on a whole to play an integral part. When we were being raised, we were raised by the village. That unfortunately doesn't happen anymore for a number of reasons, but putting that aside, we have to make a concerted effort now to try and reach out, because I really think that a lot of the young persons are angry. They're angry deep down for a number of reasons. And once we can get beneath the surface, then I think that would put us on the right path to trying to resolve the problems. You talked about bullying, and I know from experience and even from watching movies and reading, the biggest bullier, the person who tends to dominate and control the most, is actually the softest person underneath. But it's all a shell. And once you get underneath that surface, you realize there are insecurities. It could be the lack of a father figure. It could be the fact that some issue to do with the mom, some issue to do with the household, or they're not successful academically. But it's not an indictment on them. It's that we have to come together collectively to help our kids be the best that they can be, because everybody has a fighting chance to be a top student.
Are you admitting that feminism has done us harm?
I never said that. I never said that. I think men and women need to play their roles, and the difference now than it was back then is back then our parents spoke. Our parents gave us the evil eye, and we came to heal. This generation, that doesn't work. You have to lead by example. I think that's one of the biggest problems we face as a society, because we continue to talk the talk with our lips, but then our actions are totally contrary to what we're saying with our mouths. And the kids pay active attention to that. 4-year-olds pay attention to that, and they manipulate the situation. And we are the ones who have created it. So until we recognize and change our behavior and try to think long and hard about, well, I said so, but don't do it. We now have to start to think about, well, I can't do it. And it means that you have to discipline yourself. Sometimes the very things that you might like, you have to say no, because the child is watching you. And when you are ready to tell them, don't do that, they're going to tell you, point out that you did it too. And they're a very challenging generation. They are not afraid to speak up. They're very vocal. They're very demanding. They're very forthright.
They're very educated.
They're very educated. Very, very educated.
We're going to take a break, but you presented a bigger challenge, I think, in some of what you've just said. Then, I don't know, perhaps you realize it, but I think us as a society don't realize the role the whole society has played in creating the conditions that we face.
Creating the monster.
Yeah, and particularly when you talk about the challenges that the bully might have, or the challenges that persons who in single parent families might have, the whole social the society's determination that your humanity is based on your material possessions. That particular fact, the materialism is the one word that coins that phrase. The materialism being the operative goal of the day in our society, particularly. We seem to have underestimated the role that has played in the behavior of our children as it reflects from us as the adult. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back from this break after these words from our sponsors. Keep it locked right here to Spotlight.
Spotlight is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands and CCT Global Communications.
What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life? Hanging out on the corner where there is no future. What are you doing with your life? Tell me, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life? That's what you should do with your life.
Littering is a criminal offense under the Littering Abatement Act. Our litter wardens and police officers are hunting for litterers. You will be caught when you least expect. Litterers are subject to a $500 fine or 3 months in prison. Stop littering in our country. You are hurting our environment and you are hurting our economy.
It's not even about being bigger. David and Goliath taught us that it's about being better than you were yesterday. At CCT, we're committed to building on better music downloads, better videos, better online gaming, better internet so your kids can get their homework done at better hours, better customer support when you need it the most. A better everything makes a better BVI so that you could work better and live better. You see, at CCT, we're not only a local company, we're a better company with the real 4G network. Visit your CCT flagship store today and experience CCT Life Unlimited.
He's been working so hard on this. I am so extremely proud of him.
Ralph Waldo Emerson, writer and philosopher, once said, and I quote, "To finish the moment, to find the journey's end in every step of the road, to live the greatest number of good hours is wisdom.
Being a single parent, my husband died. Juggling work, children, school was tough, but I did it.
I feel like I have a fresh start in life. HLSCC has definitely exceeded my expectations.
I am the younger of two in my family, but I am the first to go off to a university. HLSCC has given me the right jump start to pave in my success.
You don't come to college just to come to college. You come to college to graduate.
Just coming out of high school at a very young age, HLSCC was the ideal stepping stone to prepare me for the greater world. It's right at home with great facilities and great lecturers. My college experience was phenomenal.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Edjuenka, and I'm here having an interesting discussion with Honorable Ingrid Moses Scatliff. She is the Speaker of the House of Assembly and the Vice President of Rotary Club of Tortola. And we are talking about the Youth Forum that's coming up under the theme Peace
and Conflict Resolution.
Peace and Conflict Resolution. Yes. And we've been having quite a discussion about some of the causes or the challenges that we are having with our young people and how we are going to manage those challenges and turn them around and turn those that are having those kinds of problems into positive citizens. And I think it's important for us to say, Sister Moses Scatliff, that the vast majority of our young people are good young people. Because, you know, the way we talk about it, you would think that all the youth are bad. You know, we talk like all the youth are, like if you're young, you're bad. Yeah. But we know that we have a tremendous amount of kids in high school that's doing extremely well in all the high schools. You know, we see them getting honor roll, we see them getting scholarships, we see them doing good things, and so, you know, we have a good cadre of young people that are doing positive things, and the young persons that are having challenges, we are trying to bring them into the stream of positivity, and you know, and it's, I don't want to give off the impression that man, you know, we got a lost generation and children are bad, and you know, because that tends to be the way it goes over. But as we left off talking about materialism as a significant player in the development of the young people, and parents being disciplined enough to walk the walk that they talk, be examples for their children. That's a major problem, and a lot of our parents now, what I like to say, neglecting their children in order to feed them. Neglecting their children in order to feed them. And how does that play out in what you're trying to do, as what the Rotary clubs are trying to do? You know, how are you taking these particular social factors into consideration in your forums and in your mentorship programs, in the things that you're trying to use, the tools you're trying to use to try to stem the tide of the growing situation? Big question.
You touched so many different areas just now. If I could just briefly, you talked about most of the young persons are good. My personal philosophy is all young persons are good, because when they're all born as babies, they're the sweetest things. Everybody falls in love with them. Everything is going nice up until 4, 5, 6 years old. And then something happens between then and 12. And it could be a number of things. And I think one of the major differences back then to now is that we don't have the support system in place that we had when I was growing up. You had your grandparents, you had the neighbors, you had aunts, uncles, everybody basically chipped in. Now you don't have the benefit of having that. And you talk about parents having to neglect their children to work. It's a sacrifice that they're actually making, but it's a double-edged sword, because I think it's difficult for you to even balance it, because you're trying to work, to pay the bills, to provide for the children, but at what cost? It comes at the cost that you don't have the time available to really spend with them, to find out what's happening in your children's life, to find out who are your children's friends, who are they associating with, are they getting their homework done, are they struggling? And that is again where we're trying to come in, because we recognize that there are magnitude of problems there that are affecting parents, children, teachers, and the weight is actually falling on the teachers, and we don't give them enough credit, because they are now taking on the role of teachers as well as parenting to a lot of children who either don't have their parents around because their parents are trying to get the bills paid. And it's something that you have to balance tremendously, and we're trying to do as much as we can to aid in that. And we talked about the mentorship and spending time together with these children, and it's at least a couple of hours every week, so that it takes the pressure off of the parents, but because you can feel safe and knowing that, okay, your child is being mentored by different persons in the community with varying backgrounds who can mentor the children, motivate them, share with them what they do, their experiences, teach them skills, and
give them some values.
I think moral
values, moral compass.
They have values, but again, we are going back from the basics that we had as children, because we were deep rooted in the church. So we had to go to church. We had to go to Sunday school. I went to church about 4 or 5 times a week. I didn't have a choice, but I had to go, believe it or not. And now most of the kids don't have to go, or they don't want to go. The parents ask them and they don't go. But those are values, and that's how the community became so tight-knit, because everybody knew each other. And when you did something, we didn't have phones the way we had now, but if I passed somebody on the road in the village and I didn't say good afternoon, by the time I got home, my mother knew. Don't ask me how she knew, but she knew. And that's just the way it worked. And now with all the telecoms that we have, it's amazing that
the information ain't fast, right?
As much as we have moved forward technologically, I think we have regressed socially, because it has come at a cost. The kids fighting on the playgrounds, we fought with sticks and stones. We played marbles, we out picking guineas, and if you had an argument, that was a simple thing. But now the arguments are resulting into fights with knives, with weapons, with going to get a weapon. We never did that.
And lasting days and weeks.
And again, it's a myriad of factors. It's not any one thing that's causing it. It's the outside influences. And when I say that, the media, when I say the media, I don't mean the media in the traditional sense. It's the music, it's the movies, it's the internet. As much as it's resourceful, it's very dangerous. The social media, the magazine. If you listen to some of the things that the kids listen to,
the lyrics and the songs, it's amazing. Yeah, I've listened to some. Yeah.
So it's
but you're hoping that the mentorship program would be a modicum of that village raising a child, that community support for the parents.
That's what we're hoping for, and we're not just starting from scratch, because like I said, we have the earlier clubs, we have the interact clubs, we also have Rotaractors, which is 19 to 29. We have several schools that have been adopted. The Joyce Samuels Primary School, the Alexandrina Maduro School are adopted by the Rotary Club of Tortola. We also have the Eunice Adams schools and the Ebenezer Thomas and Isabella, who are adopted by Rotary Club of Rotown and the Rotary Club of Rotown Sunrise, respectively. So again, you're partnering, but I think what we're going to do now is extend it a bit further to us giving up time. I mean, we do a lot of volunteer work, we do a lot of project, and it's going to boil down to us bringing those kids with us, because while you're there, you're interacting, you're learning skills, you're seeing everything in action. Respect, the way you speak to each other, the way you deal with each other, the way you resolve an issue. It's not about fighting, it's about resolving it with words.
Yes.
And not coarse words either. Use the power of the tongue in a positive way, and that comes about again from literacy, which we promote, reading.
And getting them to understand each other and
Exactly.
the reason why these things, communication.
Communicate face to face, not on Facebook, not behind some screen where you can say a whole lot of stuff.
But, I get the sense, though, that the society and the Rotary clubs in particular are not taking the economic issues into consideration. That's to a large extent behind some of these challenges that we are having. And when I say economic issues, the whole fact of parents having to work 2 jobs, we're not getting a decent living wage. The minimum wage has been the same minimum wage for at least 20 years. Because I've been here 18 years and the minimum wage hasn't changed. So I'm saying at least 20 years, probably a lot more. Cost of living continue to rise, not necessarily as a consequence of any government wrongdoing, but by global, just the global economy creates a rise in the cost of living, and wages continue to be depressed systematically by a system of political economics. And one of the things that I always chide the Rotary clubs for, and not so much as a blame, because I understand the challenge of having a club that is so potentially powerful to be openly political. And I understand that. I understand that.
You lost me there just now.
No. Don't pretend you get lost now, Sister
You had me the first bit. You totally lost me.
Don't pretend you get lost now. The Rotary Club, the Rotarians, are the most prominent people in the territory. They are the ones with the most education. They are the ones with the best jobs. They are the ones that have the ability to influence change. Right? Now you could sit there and try to deny it all you want, but a simple observation will point to the fact of what I'm saying. Right? And as I said, I understand really and truly. I understand the need to be quote unquote apolitical. However, I don't see it as a bad thing to be political in the best interest of the society or the goals that you're trying to achieve in the best interest of the society. I don't see it as a bad thing. And what I mean by that is positions on the social phenomena that we're encountering that are presenting or creating the challenges that you're trying to mitigate. One of which is having people to get a decent wage. One of which is perhaps trying to get better prices for the commodities and the essentials that we need. There are the myriad of socioeconomic factors that fuel the challenges of our parents, of the adults that fall to the children, needs political solutions. Systemic change and systematic change. And so I'm putting it out there that Rotary with all the good intentions, perhaps need to take a second look at that power and that influence for the common good.
Cromwell, you made some very hefty statements just now. You talked about minimum wage, and I think recently the Premier appointed a minimum wage review committee, so I think that is in hand. And I agree with you, it's something that needed to be looked at. Rotary is a group of volunteers. You talked about having the best jobs. I don't know anything about that. I know it's a group of businessmen who initially came together, and even if you go back to the heart of the clubs here and where they emanated, it was business persons in the community.
And I don't want to put you in a defensive position.
No,
that's not my intention.
No.
My intention is for us to realize the potential that exists and to put it to good use.
Which is what we're actually trying to do as well.
Intention.
I think some of the comments you made just now, recognizing you talked about the economic, we're not recognizing the economic problems. And believe it or not, we do recognize the economic problems. There's quite a lot of work that the clubs collectively do to assist that goes unrecognized. Not for any reason, it's just that you don't publicize everything. There are a number of parents that are assisted for medical reasons, for educational reasons, because you write in, they know the organization is there, we say that what we do, and persons, we assist quite a number of persons in their community, but we do recognize there is a direct correlation between economics and some of the social issues that we have. But having said that, we ourselves have created those situations, because you mentioned before we took the break just now, the one before, when you talked about children looking at what their parents do. I made an observation at the school the other day, and I think if there were 10 students, 9 of them were taking Kipling bags to school. That in itself creates a peer pressure situation. Now, not every parent could afford to get a Kipling bag for their child.
That's creating a real problem.
It's creating a real problem because if kids don't want to be left out. They don't want to be the odd man out.
And they don't want to be less than.
And they don't want to be less than. But again, I was raised on a very small salary for my mom.
Well, you're raised to do without what do with what you have.
Well, you're raised
to do with what you have. Yeah.
And I learned from very small, because I didn't have any money to go to sports and fair, to eat at home. So my mother fed me at home before I went. So I didn't have to buy anything because I didn't have any money to buy anything. But nobody knew that. And it's discipline. So it's stuck with me even to now. So when I go to social functions, I've already eaten at home. Because I don't wait for you to give it to me. I eat at home, so I don't have to worry about being hungry when I'm out. But it goes back to basics, because you have to instill in the children. But you see, again, we're going back to 4 and 5 year olds and little babies. You know, I see and I observe some of the littlest babies before their feet are even hard enough to wear shoes, but they're wearing Nike Airs and a lot of Timberland and these boots that actually do more damage to the child's feet than anything else. But the parents are doing that from then. So when you cultivate that in an 18-month-old, a 12-month-old, and you continue that behavior, now these are the same parents who are having issues. It's going to manifest itself into a bigger problem. And that's why it goes back to values and principles. We're doing all we can as much as we can. I know parenting classes are given, but it has a lot to do with economics. So if you only have 10 cents, you have to operate within a 10-cent budget. You have to instill these things in the children from a very early age. You can't choose to do it at 10 years old. It doesn't work like that. You have to go back when they're 12 months old, because I can't get that. You know, you see, the other day I was in the right and I saw a child having a tantrum. And they went down on the ground, and because they wanted something off the shelf and their mother said no. And another gentleman was in the store, and he was like, both of us were giving each other the eye like, we couldn't do that. But again, I think a lot of the problems we wait, these are fundamental things we always knew, but we wait too late to try to dig in and set the rules. By that time, it's too late. If you foster those ideals from very young, but you have to demonstrate it as well in your actions. Because if you know you can't afford it, then you shouldn't be going to the salon every week and having your nails done and having the latest bag and the latest shoes. It's your prerogative, yes, but it has to do with priorities. And as much as people have, we have to prioritize. Your child, once you give birth to a child, that becomes your responsibility, wholly and solely. So it means you have to cut your share short to provide for that child.
It's a long discussion.
It's a long discussion.
It's a long discussion.
Long discussion.
The Youth Forum is coming up at the Multipurpose Sports Complex.
Thursday, 2nd of October 2014. As I said, it involves all the secondary schools in the territory. It's the Elmore Stout Secondary School, St. George's Secondary, St. Adventist Secondary, and Cedar International. And that's on Thursday, the 2nd of October at the Multipurpose Complex. It starts at 8:30. That's when the kids are supposed to get there, between 8:30 to have a prompt start at 9 o'clock. It's only 2 hours, so by 10:30 we would be finished. On Friday, it's being held at the New Testament Church of God Sanctuary of Hope. They graciously offered their church as the venue, and that will start at 10 a.m. to finish at 12 noon as well. And we're having, again, all of the grades 7, 8, and 9 students who will be attending. Parents are free to stop by if they choose. It's a very short and compact program, but we're hoping to make it very interesting and to engage dialogue with the students. We're also having a guest speaker. His name is Rashad Jones of Epic Youth Services in the United States. He's a very dynamic and inspiring speaker, and he usually presents at these types of assemblies, so he can relate to the issues that are the topics that we haven't presented on. So that's going to be one of the highlights at the end of the panel discussion. So after we hear from the students, there's also going to be 2 adult panelists, and these are persons in the community who we think students will look up to, or do look up to, who can also give some insight into the topics, followed by questions. And we hope that the students will ask questions, because it's a heart-to-heart discussion, it's a frank discussion. We're doing this really for you, let you tell us what the problems are, what the possible solutions, and how we can help you after this forum finishes. And that is what we're really aspiring to do, and to continue on and bring about the result that we need to see.
Cool. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with a little more right after these words from our sponsors. Keep it locked right at the Spotlight.
Spotlight is brought to you by Tortola Concrete Limited and H. Lavity Stout Community College.
It's not even about being bigger. David and Goliath taught us that it's about being better than you were yesterday. At CCT, we're committed to building on better music downloads, better videos, better online gaming, better internet so your kids can get their homework done at better hours, better customer support when you need it the most. A better everything makes a better BVI so that you could work better and live better. You see, at CCT, we're not only a local company, we're a better company with the real 4G network. Visit your CCT flagship store today and experience CCT Life Unlimited.
Serving the community for over 25 years, Tortola Concrete Limited is the leading producer of concrete products in the BVI. With grades of 3,000 to 5,000 PSI, Tortola Concrete ready-mix quality unmatched in the industry, and we can mix to your specifications. Our aggregates are clean through our unique washing process for our smooth, clean mix. And our special chilling process makes our concrete crack resistant. Tortola Concrete Limited is the concrete company for all your quality concrete products. Gravel, road base, face stone, boulders, armor rock, coarse sand, terrace, and the cleanest, strongest, crack resistant, ready mix concrete. Tortola Concrete Batch Plant serve you Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. until the last load. Our knowledgeable, effective staff gives you free estimate and delivers on time to any location. Contact Tortola Concrete at 494-3259, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Conveniently located in Parkwood Pond near the BVI electricity plant. At Tortola Concrete Limited, the strength is in the mix.
Have you heard? Clarence Summers Limited Home Centers is making things more affordable in the British Virgin Islands. We are making things better for you during these hard times by reducing prices throughout our stores, using our new pricing strategy. But wait, there's more. Created exclusively for our loyal customers, now there's a rewards program implemented just for you. Sign up to become a loyalty member and be the first to get member perks such as exclusive email offers, members-only discounts, private sales event, and much, much more. Our loyalty program gives you savings and benefits that will be equal to or better than our crazy sales of past years. With our loyalty program, you'll get monthly specials on items exclusively only for our loyalty customers at prices that won't be matched. Enroll in our loyalty program today. It's free. It's easy. Get ready, BVI, for lower prices at Clarence Summers Limited Home Centers. Clarence Summers Limited, your number one stop for the best products at the lowest prices, period. Locally owned and operated since 1967.
All the makings of a major disaster. Torrential rain and winds of more than 300 kilometers per hour.
Disasters can happen at any time.
Are you financially prepared to deal with the repercussions?
Don't allow disaster to creep up on you without being financially prepared.
Put aside a few dollars each month for a rainy day. Everyone should have an emergency fund.
Careful, don't use your rainy day fund for shopping sprees.
Keep it, just in case of emergencies.
Consistent savings of any amount adds up. Start saving today.
This message is brought to you by
the Financial Education Network,
the Department of Disaster Management,
the Department of Information and Public Relations,
and Money Matters BVI, seeking to create a more financially literate BVI.
I'm here to find out about my husband's social security. Okay. You hear about that bad accident?
Yes.
This my husband get mashed up.
He went to Puerto Rico?
Yeah. It was a serious accident, you know. But they won't get some of that security money.
Miss, your husband's contributions are not up to date.
What? What do you mean by that?
Remember, you must secure your tomorrow today. Check on your contribution status right away.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I've been having a fantastic conversation with Sister Ingrid Moses Catliff. She is the Vice President of the Rotary Club of Tortola, and of course, we all should know that she is the Speaker of the House of Assembly, right, in the civics class. And quite an interesting discussion we've been having about the young people of today and what's needed to set them on the right path, those that who are a little off, to bring them back in line. And of course, the upcoming forum that the Rotary Club of Tortola is facilitating on Thursday, the 2nd of October. And that's in the Multipurpose Sports Complex, and it starts at 8:30 in the morning.
8:30 to get everybody seated for a prompt start at 9.
And you're inviting
parents are welcome, persons are welcome to stop by.
And the children, you want children from?
The children from grades 7, 8, and 9, which is formerly Forms 1, 2, and 3, from all of the secondary schools. The arrangements are already in place, so we're expecting between 800 to 1,000 students on Thursday in the multipurpose complex, and on Friday it's going to be around 400 students between the Brigada Flax Educational Center and the Claudia Creaky. So we've gotten a full support from all of the secondary schools.
And you serving refreshments, you serving breakfast? I gotta ask. The people want to know. The parents want to know.
It's a 2-hour program. It's going to finish at 10:30, just in time for the kids to have their. Remember, the Todd farmers have lunch at 11.
Oh, okay. Just in time for the snack and the lunch.
Just in time for lunch.
Okay. And of course, the goal is to listen to the young people and instead of talking at them.
Right. Hear from them in person what they think the problems are, what's causing them, why they occur, and how they think we can help them solve them. Okay. That's essentially what we're trying to
And you're
achieve.
having a guest speaker for motivational purposes, for clarity.
For motivational purposes, and it's also someone who can relate to the topics as well as to the students. So based on what emanates from it, he's going to be able to share with them as well his experiences and to bring, I guess, some clarity into the whole forum.
Okay. And what's going to be the continuation after that forum is done? What Rotary plans for the future of the young people?
Well, it's the mentorship. It's the ongoing mentorship that we have. We're going to be promoting the OLIAC, Interact, and Rotaract clubs, and mainly OLIAC and Interact for the target group that we're selecting, as well as we're actively involved, believe it or not, throughout all the schools now. We're launching a Butterfly storybook project that has been launched in several of the schools already, and that fosters literacy and develops their writing skill, and it's for students to submit short stories. They submit them to the teachers, who will then submit them to the Rotary Club. There'll be a selection process, and then they're submitted on to the regional body, who's going to be responsible for assessing and judging who the winners are. And you have there's a cash prize being awarded, but there's also the opportunity of having your story published and being sold on Amazon. So, and that is something that's done annually as well. But again, like I said previously, it's quite a lot that the Rotary clubs in the territory are doing and continue to do within the community. Not only volunteer projects in terms of handoff with the schools, but directly with schools and interacting. There's weekly readings that are done at several of the schools by Rotarians. They go, give an hour of their time and read to the students. So that, again, fosters the relationships with school-age children.
Okay. And I think we should add here that you have clubs for all ages and to encourage and invite young people to join the various age groups.
Absolutely. For OLIAC, its ages around 8 to 12, and that's in the primary schools. And then there is the Interact Club, which is 13 to 18 years of age, and that's in the secondary school. OLIAC, because of the age group, those meetings are held within the school and within the calendar of the school. So it's usually held either during after school, like at 3 o'clock as an after school program. But the Interact meets on Saturdays at 3 o'clock at the sports division. And of course we have the Rotaractors and the big club, the Rotary clubs. But I'm encouraging all parents. It's an opportunity to get your children involved. Let them go out, mix with their peers, but in a far more structured setting, which enforces the values, responsibility, accountability, and it fosters their leadership skills as well and increases their self-esteem, their confidence, their public speaking skills, and they're having fun while they're doing it. And I think that is what we're going to have to actively push as well, to get the kids out there, get the kids involved in these clubs, because it builds the relationship, and we can monitor you basically from that early age up to becoming adults and hopefully becoming successful persons in the community.
Absolutely. I think we've covered a lot tonight. Don't stay away so long. Y'all doing a lot of terrific things in the community, and I'm happy to let the community know through whatever means I have about the important things that are happening through Rotary clubs that could benefit particularly our young people. The adults, we finish with us.
Absolutely.
But as the children, we have to look after now, and I think Rotary have some tools that we could use to help the young people to develop, as you say.
We have a responsibility, Cromwell, as persons in the community to give back and to assist and help very much the way we were assisted and helped when we were young persons as well, to make sure that we do all we can to ensure that young persons develop and mature into successful individuals in the community in whatever fields they may decide to pursue.
Yes. Okay. So we want to remind you again, Thursday, the 2nd of October, this Thursday coming.
This Thursday.
At 8:30 a.m. at the Multipurpose Sports Complex. Forum themed peace and conflict resolution. We want all the young people, parents, get as many of the young people, your young children to come out to that event as possible. It's going to be an important and an interesting event.
And then Virgin Gorda.
And in Virgin Gorda, say Virgin Gorda there for me.
Virgin Gorda on Friday the 3rd of October. It's at the New Testament Church of God Sanctuary of Hope. It starts promptly at 10 a.m. and it should be finished at 12 o'clock noon. So we're encouraging all the parents to have your children come to the forum, and parents are welcome to stop in and to hear for themselves what some of the issues are being experienced by the children and how they can actually offer some of the solutions.
Thanks for coming by.
You're most
Thanks
welcome.
for being on Spotlight. Yes. Next week, the Spotlight will shine on the Family Support Network and its role in the community in terms of strengthening families and helping families and members or victims, I should say, of domestic violence to mitigate those challenges and how we could try to reduce the incidences of domestic violence. There's a protocol that's being signed in the next day or so regarding how we are going to handle the challenges of domestic violence, and so that information will be coming to us on Spotlight next Tuesday. Also, the tele-stroke services at the New People's Hospital is about to be launched on the 6th of October. A very important service for potential victims of strokes. It's a service that's going to help us to take advantage of that opportunity to prevent catastrophic motor skills failure. That's a big word there. To help us to not be paralyzed and die from a stroke. Simplify that. We're going to be able to have access to doctors in remote locations. They're going to be able to look on their iPad and their iPod and laptop computers through high-speed internet to give diagnosis and treatment recommendations for stroke victims. So it's an important service that's coming to the territory. So make sure you here to hear all about it next Tuesday. Spotlight is seen Tuesdays at 8 p.m. and rebroadcast Sundays at 2:30 p.m. here on JTV Channel 55. Thanks for watching. We also would like you to continue to give us suggestions for topics and criticism. Like our Facebook page, Spotlight, and watch the discussions that you miss that's being posted on the Facebook page, as well as going to jtvlive.net where you can see the spotlights that you've missed. I'm Edgewanker, reminding you that when the spotlight is on, you see the facts. Peace and blessings.